down, but only so that one little spike. Hey!
Ladies and gentlemen, take a good look. This is Andrew Penzie.
The man, the myth, the legend.
And then here's his nephew, Tom. Yeah, and so Andrew, as you can see, just walked up. This is the 2023 Map Reading Challenge. We still have one more guy who's not here yet. When I pulled up, I saw him, I'm like, that is clearly a Penzie right there. You could just see the resemblance. You need to get all that gear off your back. So you saw a spike this morning?
Saw a spike, so that was good. I was really nodding off in the stand. It was dangerous.
Yes.
And I was like, oh yes, a spike. It woke me up. And it's amazing how they sneak up on you. I mean, he was like within 30 yards before I saw him or heard him.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he came right downwind behind me. And then he bedded 30 yards from me. And it was actually very funny. I was letting out milkweed because I'm like, the scent, it has to be going right to him. And I watched the milkweed go right over his head.
Oh, wow, that's funny.
And he didn't flinch though. He stayed there for like 45 minutes sleeping.
You didn't have a shot, or you didn't want to?
I didn't want to.
Yeah, you didn't want to. This is Andrew Penzie. He's the non-spike shooter.
Like
until
January, then it's down here.
Well, I just got here. It's like 11 in the morning. Drove 4 hours from I had my high school reunion last night, so my voice is a little blown out because they had the music so loud. We're all yelling at each other, trying to talk. So anyhow, I saw a shooter right up the road here.
Yeah, he's probably running from me.
No, he's chasing a doe. It was about, I mean, he was a minimum of an 8 point, but I think he was more like a 9 or a 10.
Well, that's exactly where I'm going.
Oh, dude, I'll show you on the map where he was at. So I'm going to turn this camera off. Welcome to the Map Reading Challenge, folks who are watching. Let's go. Folks, in the woods right there is a flashlight. That is, you probably can't see me because I'm in the dark. Let me walk around to the front. That is the final participant in the Map Reading Challenge. That is David. And apparently part of his grunt tube fell off and he went back looking for it. We are waiting for him to come out and then we are going to get dinner. This has gone from the Map Reading Challenge to the grunt tube finding challenge.
That's no way. You fell off somewhere between here and there. Chances of me backtracking the same path exactly is pretty much zero.
You just have to go back in the daylight and try to find it. David!
Nice to
welcome.
meet you,
yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you in person.
Yeah.
This is the Map Reading Challenge, my friends.
It is indeed.
Folks, we're living like kings here on the Map Reading Challenge. Here's Andrew Penzie firing up the stove. Yeah. Tell us what you're making, Andrew.
We're going to cook up some burgers for lunch today.
That's how we do, man. We're not messing around. So Andrew saw a big shooter this morning.
Yeah, it was nice. I was on the maybe 50 yards off of a field, and I could just see him coming across the corner of the field. Oh, that gas is on. Let's better shut that off before we blow up ourselves there. I think there we go.
You didn't just see that, folks.
Yeah. So this is off.
There you go.
All right, we're learning.
We're learning.
There we go.
We didn't put any spark to it. Now, I haven't seen a deer, but I've seen, when I pulled in this morning, there were 6 trucks in the parking spot that I was going to go to. So I pulled a quick audible and just tried somewhere else, and it didn't work out. There was reflector tacks everywhere. Set up in a tree, 20 yards from my tree when it got daylight, there was a spot. Someone had just cleared out recently, all at the base of this tree. You could tell they sat down and leaned against a tree. I just had a spot where there was a lot of hunting pressure, so no luck there. Dave over here, you saw something, didn't you, Dave?
Yeah, I saw a couple of does came through about 50 yards away, but they were in some thicket there. At this point, I would probably take a doe, but if they don't come close enough, I'm not going to do it. So
there you go. So this night, tonight, I was thinking of actually trying a different public land about 30 minutes from here, but I just took a quick ride while we were coming to meet up, and I found a spot that might have potential, although right now the wind's blowing the wrong way. It's supposed to change this afternoon, but if it doesn't change, if the wind direction doesn't change, that's not going to work. I'll have to go to the other place. So I'm up in the air as far as where I'm going to end up, but we'll see. I'd like to see a deer at this point. I forgot to mention, Tom had to leave because his wife is showing us how to get the job done. She whacked a buck last night with the front of the car, and he had to go. She's the only one who got a deer. She's not even on the map reading challenge, and she got a deer. But so anyhow, we lost Tom. Poor Tom. He had to go take care of that, but we're glad everybody's okay. And that's the news for right now.
Meh.
I saw that buck 100 yards away and I grunted a couple times and he came slowly worked his way in. And I tried to grunt stop him where I had my best shot angle. and he just walked right, he just kept walking, and then I had a little window. My grunt stopped him again, and I shot, and I hit him. I couldn't quite tell. I thought I had a decent hit, but man, I watched him run, and he was probably 150 yards and still running. So, man, I don't know if I'm gonna find that one. I'm just gonna get down while I have a little bit of light and check for blood, and then mark the spot, and then get the guys for help. That's a bummer, folks. So I got down and found the arrow, and it looks like, you know, when I put it all back through my mind, what I think happened is when the deer came up, and I didn't get very good footage because I wanted to make sure I got a shot when I had the opportunity. I saw the deer, grunted, he slowly over like 15-20 minutes worked his way up. He kept kind of zigzagging, and he turned and he got on a trail that was about 22 yards from me. I tried to grunt stop him when he got to the window that I had, and he just stepped right through, didn't phase him at all. So I had one more little window I could shoot through. I grunt stopped really loud, and on that one he stopped, and I was like, man, I think he's 25. So I kind of held for 25. Just in the moment, you know, you're trying to process and figure out how to do it, and your adrenaline's going. So I held 25, I let the arrow go. I could tell the arrow was going right behind the shoulder, you know, in proximity, you know, as far as relation to the whole deer. But man, that deer really dropped. I heard the arrow hit, and then he ran off, and man, I watched him run and run and run. I probably saw him for 300 yards, and he was still running like crazy, like unfazed, like he, you know, it like not hurt at all. So when I got down, I found the arrow. It was about 4 or 5 yards past where he was standing, which makes me think, yeah, I hit him high, and it just nipped the top of him and just kept going. And it was so far down into the dirt, you know what I mean? There was so much power in the arrow by the time it got to the ground. I mean, I had to really pull it out. So I think collectively that's going to end my hunt, because I was going to hunt in the morning, but ethically, you know, even though I feel very confident the deer's going to be fine, it's still my duty to look for the deer. Found no blood tonight, and so I'm going to just wait for a good daylight tomorrow. I'll look for blood. Probably won't find it, but I'll still walk all the way down to where I last saw it and just see if I can find anything. But that's probably going to end the map breeding challenge for this year for me. But praise the Lord, I had an opportunity. It was a tough situation. It was a tough hunt, you know, leading up to that. So I was really hoping to get a shot at the deer. I did get a shot at the deer, but I was hoping to get the deer. But at least I feel very calm that I just nipped the top of him. He dropped so much that, and I was already holding like 25, so I'm pretty sure I just grazed the top of him. But again, I'll look in the morning, and I'm waiting for the other guys to come out to see how they did. But this could be the end of the map breeding challenge for me for this year, but at least I had a shot at a buck. Thanks be to God for that. And thankfully, I don't think that deer's wounded, like not in any serious way. So, okay, it's the following morning. I'm going to show you the tree I was in. So I was in that tree there, and you can see there's other trees I had to kind of shoot through and around. The deer was right here. It was actually right there is where the deer was. But I found the arrow back. I marked it with this stick right here. The arrow actually, so we're about 5 yards past where the deer was. My thought is I was holding about 25 yards, and the deer was about 26, 25 yards, somewhere around there. And it squatted significantly by the time the arrow got there. And my arrow went so far past where the deer was and was so deep into the ground that hitting the deer didn't take much like force or velocity or whatever the correct word is off of the arrow. It still went really, I mean, it was buried. So I'm thinking I just grazed the top of it. Dave's hunt kind of didn't work out this morning. Sort of a providential phone drop. And so now he's going to walk with me. We're going to see if we can find any sign of the deer or any blood. It ran out this way, and then there's an oak flat here. It's really flat for almost 500 yards, and then it drops off. And I saw the deer running strong for that whole distance till I couldn't see it anymore. And he had no sign of slowing up. So I think the deer's fine, but we're giving it the old college try. We're giving it an effort. We're gonna go out this flat and just look real hard for blood and see if we can get some blood to go down that hillside and just see what happens. All right, so David just found a couple specks of blood, and then we do see some blood here. It's not bleeding profusely, but we do have some, so thanks be to God. I was actually just praying for God's grace and help to help us find this blood trail. So hey, we're on a trail. Let's see how far we could take it. Now, I did watch that deer run another 400 yards from here, so we'll see. Well, folks, we've tracked, and we spent about, close to an hour, and I thought we went several hundred yards, and I did the measuring tool from the tree stand to our last speck of blood, and it was really only 125, 130 yards that we went, just going real slow, and we lost the trail. It just petered out. I really think this deer is perfectly fine. We had specks the whole time, not any significant amount of blood. So, I mean, that's a sort of relief. Everyone who hunts knows it's always disheartening and gut-wrenching when you know you probably killed the deer and you can't find it. But I feel very calm that this deer's fine. So we're going to do a little more searching here and just see if, we come across any more blood or the deer. But I feel very at peace that this deer's fine. Just replaying how that deer dropped. But here's the thing I learned from this, because I always try to learn something new from every hunt. And I'm going to share this with you because carrying it forward, it's going to help me. And I don't think, it's very rarely that a deer doesn't stop when you do the grunt to get him to stop to shoot. So in my mind, I ranged where the tree was, where the deer was coming up to, where I had a shooting lane. And I'm like, okay, the tree is like 22 yards, so he'll be on the back side of that, 23-ish yards. And I'll aim with my 20 pin right on, and if he drops a little bit, I'll still be good. And I grunted, and he just kept walking. Now, here's the lesson that I learned from this hunt is I didn't have a backup plan. And when I shoot, and I do very well, a lot of people say I'm a good shot, I'm very successful. And it's because as the deer's coming, I put together a plan of where I'm going to shoot, and then when the deer gets there, I execute the plan. I focus on the plan and executing it. That's why I'm so efficient usually. Here, I didn't have a backup plan, so then I was scrambling. Okay, I have to grunt louder. Where can I get a second opportunity? I had a very small window between all the little trees to get a second shot, or a second chance at a shot. So I grunted really loudly. The trail was on a diagonal away from me, so I'm thinking, all right, I think he's 25 yards. I put my 20 pin mid-body, which would be about a 25-yard aiming increment, and I let the arrow go. I just focused on holding steady, executing the shot. But I didn't have the detail of, okay, how do I factor in the squat at this distance? And he squatted significantly, and I think the arrow just caught the top of him and went through, and was so far down into the dirt. Like his body did not take much velocity off the arrow, if that's the correct word. I'm not a scientist or physicist, so I don't know if that's... Anyhow, there was a lot of force in that arrow, and it went deep into the ground because the deer didn't take much off of it. So in the future, as the deer's coming, I'll have plan one, try to grunt stop him here. Okay, if he doesn't stop there, there's an opportunity where I could just squeeze an arrow if I grunt really loudly, and there he's going to be 25 yards instead of 23 yards, so I'm going to have to compensate for the squat on the aiming, and XYZ, there's your plan. But then I have something to execute in the backup, and that's really the lesson for me on this hunt, and I'm sharing it with you because hey, that might help some of you out there in a similar situation. And there was another component in here that I'm going to share. I'm sorry for talking so much, but it's partly about education. I'm always trying to help me and others become better hunters. It was a tough hunt. The first sit, everything went wrong, didn't see a deer. Second sit in the morning, it's not that everything went wrong. I showed up at the first spot, there were 6 trucks, so I just pulled a quick backup plan, and the spot I went to, there's tons of reflectors, lots of people been hunting it, didn't see a deer. So there's a lot of frustration, a lot of freezing. I mean, it's been really cold. I was shivering. It was like 20 degrees yesterday morning. So 2 very stressful hunts off of several days of almost no sleep while just driving. I drove 16 hours to Pennsylvania, then 4 hours to New York, and just not sleeping hardly at all. So there was a lot of physical and emotional exertion going into this hunt, which makes it harder too. So guys, you have all these kinds of factors. I'm not going to be hard on myself. I feel very at peace with this deer's fine. But you have to, realize that when you're a hunter, there's lots of dynamics going on. And I hear guys beating themselves up. That's not going to help you. I mean, it is harder when you think you killed the deer and you didn't find it. But I'm very at peace that this deer's fine. But anyhow, those are some of the things I want to share. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode or this version of the map reading challenge for this season. And I still got some hunting to do. I'm going to be heading back to Iowa tomorrow. I'm actually heading to Pennsylvania again today to film another episode of the podcast with a friend of mine, so I hope you'll stay tuned for that. You'll meet Mike in a future episode of the podcast, Faith and the Outdoors. Again, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, take care and God bless.